Loosely based on my grandmother's recipe for corn. Not curry corn, not corn soup, but I'm telling you, boy, by the way, the gravy that was left in the pot, it's down in the bottom down there. I just drizzled that on there, and I'm telling you, boy, I've got a couple tablespoons of olive oil in there, and to that I'm gonna add an onion that I sliced up, and it's on low heat, so you're just trying to pull out the flavors from that onion. Garlic, some fresh thyme, a good dose of black pepper. Not sure if I mentioned it already, but my heat is on low. Yo, and you know, this is a sort of a loose take on a recipe my grandmother used to do when she would boil corn. Of course, you know, if you ever played football, well, if you're from South Trinidad and you ever went to Lumsden and Gasparilla to play football, you would know that there used to be a lady there selling corn. It was somewhat similar, except she would put freshly grated coconut in there and stuff like that. But the point is, we're seasoning the liquid. And I've got some bell pepper and scallion in there. When I say the liquid, yes, there's no liquid in there right now because there's oil, but we will need some liquid in there. And that liquid is going to come compliments of canned coconut milk. I don't have fresh coconut milk. If I did, when you grate the coconut, you want some of the grated coconut to go in here as well too. It adds a lovely flavor. And not only is this recipe loosely based on the one my grandmother would do, and you know, you'll find quite a few similarities in others across the islands. I did one right here on YouTube, I think it was, many years ago, and that one has been cloned and copied, and everybody and their granny is doing that recipe now. So yeah, it's just niceness happening in here. And for that added flavor, we got some curry powder went in there. Hit that a quick stir because we want to toast all the spices, which makes up a good curry powder. And it's only about a teaspoon of curry powder I added in there. Gonna clear a little area in the middle of the pot here, and you know, you will see similarities to curry corn, which I already did, and corn soup, which I already did. But this here is just all about the corn and the salted pigtail that I'm gonna put after in there. I'm gonna go in that same little area there. I'm gonna go in with some tomato paste. And the reason for clearing up that little center spot there is I want to sort of cook out the tomato, just that tomato paste a little bit, thus adding a lovely sweetness to the whole mix. So you see that sort of color that you see on the bottom there. Then now we can mix everything in together. That there is some pre-cooked salted pigtail, which means what I did was, and they're about an inch and a half in thickness that I cut up. But what I did was I boiled it. I brought it up to a boil in water. I allowed it to cook for 30 minutes on a rolling boil. I drained it and I repeated it again. I filled up the pot with water, brought it back up to a boil, and I cooked it for another 40 minutes. So 30 minutes and 40 minutes because I want it nice and tender. And that there, one of the reasons why I'm not adding any salt to this dish, because there's still remnants of salt in that salted pigtail. Now if you don't do pork and you wanted to do smoked turkey or something like that, yeah, lovely flavor, but I'm going, you know, old school. In Caribbean, we love salted pigtail. If you have salted beef, you can use it as well too, but it's important that we pre-cook it. My heat is still on low, by the way, so I'm just letting let some of the oils render out of the pigtail there before we do anything else. We're gonna add coconut milk now, because we want to braise that for a bit and let that salted pigtail do its thing. I'm also gonna add 1 cup of water to there. My heat is on medium-high because I want to bring this up to a boil and let that simmer for about 20 minutes. Yeah, and while I wish I had some Scotch bonnet peppers, all I have is a few wee peppers that I'm just going to toss in there just for a little kick. It's now time to add all of that corn in there. And that is your typical North American or Canadian sweet corn. So it won't take long to cook. Typically, it takes maybe a third the time than the corn that we usually get in the Caribbean. So while this, if my grandma were doing this, she would then braise this now for about 30 minutes to 40 minutes. We're going to cut that time back. But what we're going to do here is make sure we tuck everything down in some of that liquid. Plus we're going to put the lid on there and let that sort of steam cook down inside that nice coconut salted pigtail. Yeah, I was all kind of seasoning and all kind of thing in there, you know. It's been going for 20 minutes since I added the corn, and I've stirred it about 3 or 4 times already. What I'm going to do is shut off the stove at this point here and add another layer of flavor. Everything is nice and tender. Taste it for salt actually. You know, grab some of that gravy and that gravy keep flying. Taste it for salt, adjust it. I might know I ain't need none because of that salted pigtail in there. But if you like it really salty, I mean to say, do your thing. And that final layer of flavor is courtesy of shadow benny, which is culantro. If you cannot get that, you can always use cilantro, but this shadow benny here, man, I'm telling you, that is the proper thing right there. Just look at that. So we're gonna shut off the stove now, let that shadow benny wilt in there a little bit, and add a ton of, hey, Pally, you're telling them you love shadow benny, brother? Alright, I just Zaya do anything. Anyhow, turn off the stove and let that sit. Sup, soldiers? Listen, if you enjoy this recipe, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and click that bell notification thing. If you've made the recipe, take a picture and send it to me, email address down here. I mean, trying to tell people the email address, them butts will take the address and do all kind of thing with it. And tag me on Instagram at Caribbean Pod. I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for being in my kitchen with me today. Irie. Like I said, loosely based on my grandmother's recipe for corn. Not curry corn, not corn soup, but I'm telling you, boy, by the way, the gravy that was left in the pot, it's down in the bottom down there. I just drizzled that on there, and I'm telling you, boy, Anyhow, blessings.